As the sleek human spacecraft descended through the swirling mists of Zelthar, Jack couldn't help but press his face against the glass, eager for his first glimpse of alien soil. Beside him, his co-pilot and good friend, Tom, chuckled at his enthusiasm. "First time on a new planet, and he's like a kid on Christmas morning," Tom said, maneuvering the controls expertly. "It's not every day you get to meet a new species, Tom," Jack replied, his eyes scanning the landscape below. The planet was a kaleidoscope of vibrant colors, with towering structures that shimmered against the skyline, unlike anything on Earth. The spacecraft touched down gently on a designated landing pad, where a group of Zeltharians awaited. Their slender forms were wrapped in flowing garments that glinted in the sunlight. As the hatch opened, a warm, spiced scent of the alien air rushed in, and Jack took a deep breath before stepping out. A tall Zeltharian, who introduced himself as High Scholar Kryn, greeted them with a wide smile. "Welcome, humans, to Zelthar. We have awaited your arrival with great anticipation." Jack extended his hand, a human gesture of goodwill, which Kryn mimicked gracefully. "Thank you, High Scholar. We come in peace and hope to learn much from each other." Beside Kryn stood Lyra, her curious eyes fixed on Jack and Tom. "Is it true," she asked, stepping forward, "that humans age continuously? Our cycles are different. We rejuvenate periodically." Tom laughed, his gaze softening as he looked at Lyra. "That's right. We get older each year. No rejuvenation. Makes life quite the adventure." Lyra's laughter tinkled like chimes in the breeze. "Fascinating. There is much to share between us, I believe." High Scholar Kryn led the group towards a towering structure at the center of the landing area. "We have prepared a gathering where you can meet our scholars and leaders. It is a chance to exchange knowledge and culture." As they walked, Jack and Lyra fell into step beside each other. "Your planet is beautiful," Jack commented, his eyes taking in the scenery around them. "The architecture, the colors, it's all so different." Lyra smiled, her eyes reflecting pride. "And yet, here we are, two species capable of appreciating beauty, no matter how different our worlds might be. What are you most hoping to learn from us?" Jack thought for a moment before answering. "I want to understand how your society works, how you live without conflict, and what we might learn from your technology." "And we are eager to learn from you as well," Lyra replied. "Human emotions are especially intriguing to us. They seem so vibrant and complex." Their conversation was interrupted as they reached the gathering space, a vast hall filled with Zeltharians and a few humans from earlier expeditions. Murmurs of anticipation buzzed through the crowd as Kryn raised his hands for silence. "Today marks a new chapter in interstellar friendship," Kryn announced, his voice echoing softly. "Let us make the most of this remarkable day." As the crowd applauded, Jack felt a surge of excitement. This was the beginning of something extraordinary, a chance to bridge two worlds with nothing but their desire to learn and understand. He glanced at Lyra, who met his gaze with an equally enthusiastic smile. Together, they stepped forward into the crowd, ready to embark on this new journey of shared knowledge and understanding. The hall buzzed with energy as Jack, Tom, and Lyra navigated through clusters of Zeltharians and humans. Vibrant tapestries adorned the walls, depicting the history and achievements of Zelthar. High Scholar Kryn led the group to a display of technological wonders, some emitting soft glows, others silent yet pulsing with unseen energy. "This," Kryn said, pointing to a sleek, silvery device, "is a Kalari. It translates thoughts into imagery. Would you like to try it?" Tom stepped forward with a grin, always up for trying new gadgets. Kryn handed him a small, intricate headset. Tom placed it carefully on his head, and suddenly, the air before him shimmered, revealing a vivid image of the spacecraft they had arrived in. The crowd gasped and murmured in delight. "Amazing!" Jack exclaimed, watching as the image shifted to show scenes of Earth, oceans, mountains, and cities bustling with life. "It reads your thoughts?" "Indeed," Lyra replied, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "It's one of our most cherished inventions, used for education and sharing personal experiences." As the demonstration ended, a group of Zeltharian musicians began to play. The music was unlike anything Jack had ever heard, filled with complex harmonies and rhythms that seemed to resonate deep within his chest. "Come, let us show you our dance," Lyra said, taking Jack by the hand. She led him to a clear space where Zeltharians and humans alike were beginning to gather. Lyra explained the steps, her movements fluid and graceful. Jack followed as best he could, his body slowly finding the rhythm. Tom joined in, laughing as he stumbled through the steps, but gradually improving. "You're getting the hang of it," Lyra called over the music, her laughter mingling with the melodies. As the dance ended, the group moved on to a banquet table laden with an array of Zeltharian cuisine. Kryn encouraged them to try a dish called Velis-Nar, a blend of spices and textures that Jack found surprisingly tasty. "Your planet has so much to offer," Jack said to Kryn as they ate. "It's incredible how different our worlds are, yet how much we can enjoy together." Kryn nodded, his expression thoughtful. "And yet, the true journey is only beginning. Tomorrow, we shall visit our capital, where you will see the heart of our civilization." "I'm looking forward to it," Jack replied, his mind already racing with the possibilities of what he would learn there. The evening concluded with more music and laughter. As the guests began to disperse, Jack found himself beside Tom and Lyra once more. "I never imagined something like this," Tom said, shaking his head in wonder. "Meeting new people, learning their ways, it's more than just an assignment. It's a real adventure." Lyra smiled warmly. "And for us, having you here is a chance to see ourselves from a new perspective. We learn from you as much as you learn from us." Jack nodded in agreement. "This exchange is going to change a lot of things for both our peoples, I think. For the better." As they walked back to their quarters under the starlit sky of Zelthar, the cool night air felt alive with the promise of new friendships and understanding. It was the beginning of a profound connection, one that would grow with each shared experience and every learned truth about each other's worlds. The morning was crisp and clear as Jack and Tom, accompanied by Lyra and Kryn, set out for the capital city of Zelthar, a metropolis renowned for its integration of nature and technology. Their vehicle glided silently over the landscape, providing a panoramic view of the verdant valleys below. "Each building in our capital is designed to harmonize with the natural environment," Lyra explained, pointing to the structures that began to emerge on the horizon. "It's not just about aesthetics, it's about sustainability." Tom nodded, impressed. "The architecture is fantastic. It's like nothing we have back on Earth. Makes you think about what's possible, doesn't it?" As they entered the city, the streets buzzed with activity. Zeltharians of all ages moved about, some pausing to look curiously at the human visitors. Kryn guided them to a central complex, where a series of interactive exhibits awaited. "This is the Hall of Harmony," Kryn announced as they entered a large dome-shaped building filled with light and the sound of flowing water. "Here we learn and teach the balance between technology and nature." The first exhibit detailed the city's water purification system, which used a combination of bioengineering and mechanical filters. Jack was particularly fascinated. "How do you manage to maintain such a system on a large scale?" "A great question, Jack," replied a Zeltharian engineer who was standing nearby. "We use genetically modified algae which not only clean the water, but also enhance it with minerals beneficial to our health." As they moved to the next exhibit, showcasing renewable energy sources, Tom and Lyra engaged in a lively discussion about solar technology. Lyra was curious about human advancements in this field. "We've made some progress," Tom explained, "but seeing what you've achieved, there's a lot we could learn from you. Your solar panels are much more efficient than ours." Lyra smiled. "Perhaps that could be a focus for a future collaboration." Jack and Kryn continued to discuss various topics, ranging from city planning to educational systems. Kryn was particularly interested in human philosophy. How do humans cultivate ethics and values in such a diverse society? Jack thought for a moment before answering. "It's a constant conversation, really. Education plays a big part, but so does culture. Movies, books, art. They all contribute to a societal understanding of right and wrong." "Fascinating," Kryn mused. "Art as an ethical guide. We must explore this further." The group then participated in a workshop where they helped assemble a small, sustainable habitat designed for educational purposes. Working together, humans and Zeltharians exchanged ideas and techniques, each learning from the other's expertise. As they built, Jack and Lyra found themselves collaborating closely, their earlier conversations deepening into more personal territory. "What's it like?" Jack asked, "to grow up on Zelthar?" Lyra paused, handing him another component for the habitat. "It's about community. From a young age, we're taught to think about how our actions affect others. What about Earth?" "It's varied," Jack replied. "Where I grew up, it was about community too, but there's also a strong sense of individual achievement. Sometimes those two ideals conflict." "That must be challenging," Lyra noted, her tone thoughtful. "It can be," Jack admitted, "but it's also what drives innovation and change." As the day drew to a close, the habitat was complete. Standing back, the group admired their handiwork, a symbol of their cooperative effort and mutual learning. "This was more than just building something together," Tom said, wiping his brow. "It was about building bridges." "Yes," Kryn agreed. "And may those bridges lead to a long and fruitful relationship between our peoples." As they left the Hall of Harmony, the sun was setting, casting a warm glow over the city. The day had been full of learning and mutual respect, and as they headed back, Jack felt a sense of accomplishment and anticipation for the days to come. As dusk fell over Zelthar, the city lights began to twinkle, casting a serene glow across the faces of Jack, Tom, Lyra, and Kryn. They strolled through one of the capital's lush parks, where bioluminescent plants illuminated the pathways. "This place never ceases to amaze," Tom remarked, looking around at the glowing foliage. "It's like walking through a living light show." Lyra laughed softly. "It's one of our most beloved features. These plants are not just decorative. They're part of our ecosystem, providing light and assisting in air purification." Kryn nodded, leading the group towards a small amphitheater nestled among the trees. "We have a surprise for you tonight, a traditional Zeltharian musical performance. It's quite different from the music you heard at the welcome ceremony." As they settled into their seats, a group of musicians took the stage. They began to play, their instruments emitting hauntingly beautiful sounds that seemed to resonate in the very air around them. "This is incredible," Jack said, leaning over to Lyra. "What are they playing?" "It's a form called Velenhar. Each note is tuned to resonate with natural frequencies found in nature," Lyra explained. "It's meant to evoke the essence of Zelthar itself." As the music swelled, a peaceful silence fell over the group, each lost in their own reflections of the sounds washing over them. After the performance, the musicians invited the visitors to try the instruments. Tom eagerly stepped up, handling a stringed instrument with curious fingers. "Mind if I give it a try?" "Please, feel free," one of the musicians encouraged, guiding Tom's hands. "Like this, yes, gently now." Tom plucked at the strings, producing a sound that, while not expert, blended surprisingly well into the lingering echoes of the concert. "Hey, not bad for a first-timer, huh? You have a natural touch," the musician praised, smiling broadly. The evening continued with lighthearted attempts from Jack and Kryn, each taking their turn with the instruments, their playful notes creating a bond of shared joy and mutual appreciation. After their musical experimentation, Lyra suggested a walk by the nearby lake. The water was smooth as glass, reflecting the starlit sky and the soft light from the bioluminescent plants. They found a bench and sat down, enjoying the quiet night. Lyra turned to Jack, her face illuminated by the natural light. "You know, Jack, this evening made me think. Our cultures, our worlds are so different, yet here we are, finding harmony." Jack nodded, his gaze meeting hers. "It's moments like these that make me hope that our friendship will continue to grow, that we can share more than just this brief encounter." "I feel the same," Lyra replied, her voice earnest. "There's so much more to explore, not just about our planets, but about each other." Jack smiled, feeling a connection that went beyond the curiosity of a diplomat. "Lyra, there's something I've been meaning to ask you," he began, pausing as he searched for the right words. "How do your people view relationships between different species?" Lyra's expression was thoughtful. "It's rare, but not unheard of. The key is understanding and respect." "Why do you ask?" Jack took a deep breath, his heart beating a little faster. Because I'm finding myself wanting to explore that with you. Lyra's smile in response was gentle, her hand reaching out to touch his. I was hoping you might say that. And yes, I feel the same. As they sat there by the lake, the night deepened around them, wrapping them in a cocoon of possibility. The bioluminescent light danced across their faces as they leaned closer, sharing their first kiss, tender and full of promise. The night is still young, Lyra whispered, her eyes bright with emotion. Let's see where this leads us. Jack nodded, his heart full. Lead the way, he said. Together, they walked hand in hand back towards the city, the night alive with new beginnings and the soft music of Zelthar humming in their ears. The air was cool and crisp as Jack and Lyra wandered back towards the human quarters, the city's lights casting a warm glow on their path. The evening's revelations had opened a new layer of intimacy between them, and they walked in comfortable silence, each processing their newfound feelings. As they approached the building, Lyra paused, turning to face Jack. Would you like to come in for some tea? She asked, her voice a mix of nervousness and anticipation. Jack smiled, touched by her offer. I'd like that very much, he replied. Inside, Lyra prepared a traditional Zeltharian tea, aromatic and sweet. They settled onto a plush couch, the tea's steam curling into the air between them. This is nice, Jack commented, taking a careful sip. I haven't had much time to just relax since we arrived. Lyra nodded, her eyes meeting his. It's important, I think, to find these moments of peace, especially when everything else is so new and overwhelming. Jack set his cup down, his gaze lingering on her. Lyra, about what we talked about by the lake. Yes? Her voice was soft, encouraging. I just want you to know how much I appreciate your openness. I've never felt this way about someone so quickly, especially someone from a different world. Lyra's smile was gentle. I feel the same, Jack. There's something very special about you, about this connection. Encouraged, Jack moved a little closer, his hand finding hers. I'm not quite sure how all this works on Zelthar, but where I'm from, when two people feel this way, he trailed off, searching for the right words. They explore those feelings, Lyra finished for him, her hand squeezing his. Yes, exactly. The air between them charged with unspoken questions and desires. Lyra leaned in, her breath warm against his cheek. Then let us explore, she whispered. Their kiss was tentative at first, a gentle testing of boundaries and comfort. But as the initial hesitation melted away, the kiss deepened, driven by the months of companionship and the night's emotional revelations. They moved naturally with each other, a dance of give and take that felt both exhilarating and utterly right. Jack's heart raced as Lyra's hands explored his back, her touch light but confident. He responded in kind, his hands tracing the contours of her shoulders, feeling the smooth texture of her skin beneath his fingers. Lyra pulled back slightly, her eyes searching his. Is this okay? She asked, her voice a mix of desire and concern for his comfort. More than okay, Jack assured her, his voice low. It's perfect. Reassured, Lyra guided him back into the kiss, deeper this time. They explored each other with a growing sense of wonder and affection, each touch and sigh building a bridge between their worlds. As they finally parted, breathless and smiling, Jack felt a profound sense of connection. I didn't know what to expect when I came to Zelthar, he admitted, his forehead resting against hers. But I never imagined I'd find someone like you. Lyra's laugh was light, filled with happiness. Nor I, a human who would touch my heart so deeply. They spent the rest of the evening talking, kissing, and learning about each other's worlds, not just as diplomat and scientist, but as Jack and Lyra, two beings brought together by fate and a shared curiosity for the unknown. As Jack finally said goodnight, stepping out into the cool night air, he felt a peace he hadn't known in a long time. Back in his own quarters, the memories of the evening lingered, a promise of what was to come. The next day was filled with responsibilities, meetings, and exchanges that pulled Jack and Lyra in separate directions. Throughout the day, though, Jack found his thoughts drifting back to the previous night, to the warmth of Lyra's smile, the soft feel of her hand in his, and the deep, unspoken connection they had shared. By evening, he could hardly wait to see her again. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting Zelthar's sky in shades of blue and purple, Jack made his way to Lyra's quarters. The door opened, and there she was, her expression lighting up at the sight of him. "Jack," she greeted, her voice soft and inviting. "I hoped you'd come." "Couldn't stay away," he admitted with a grin. They stepped into her quarters, and the door slid shut behind them. For a moment, they stood there, just looking at each other, feeling the tension and anticipation that had built up through the day. "You know," Jack started, his tone light, "I was thinking about all those cultural exchange talks we've had, all the formalities, but nothing's quite as interesting as what we talked about last night." Lyra laughed, a melodic sound that made him feel both at ease and incredibly alive. "And what is it that intrigues you most?" she teased, stepping a little closer. He met her gaze, his voice steady but warm. "You." She held his gaze, her expression turning tender. "Then let's pick up where we left off," she murmured, reaching out to take his hand, leading him further into the room. They found themselves on the couch, sitting close, his arm resting lightly around her shoulders. The conversation came naturally, flowing between moments of comfortable silence and shared laughter. They spoke of Earth, of Zelthar, of dreams and hopes they had never shared with anyone else. At one point, Lyra reached up, her hand brushing a lock of hair from Jack's forehead, her touch lingering. "You humans are so expressive," she said, her fingers grazing his cheek. "Every emotion, every thought, it's written on your face." Jack laughed softly, taking her hand and pressing it to his lips. "I'll take that as a compliment." "It is," she replied, her gaze softening. "You wear your heart openly. I admire that." Their faces were close, her breath warm against his skin. Slowly, almost tentatively, he leaned in, and their lips met. This kiss was different from the one they had shared by the lake. It was deeper, filled with the emotions they had both been holding back. Jack could feel the energy between them, a current that neither of them could ignore. As the kiss deepened, Lyra's arms slipped around him, pulling him closer. Jack responded in kind, his hands finding her waist, feeling the slight quiver in her body as she leaned into him. Their breaths quickened, and the room around them seemed to fade away. "Are you sure?" Jack whispered, his voice filled with both desire and respect. "Yes," she replied, her voice steady and full of warmth. "This feels right." They moved with a natural rhythm, exploring the newfound closeness between them with a mixture of wonder and passion. Their hands traced the contours of each other's bodies, mapping the unfamiliar and reveling in the thrill of discovery. Jack was captivated by every detail, from the softness of her skin to the way her eyes held his with unspoken promises. They moved from the couch to her bed, their laughter and whispered words blending with the quiet sounds of the night. Each touch, each kiss, was unhurried, a delicate balance of eagerness and gentleness as they learned about each other, bridging the vast distances between their worlds. Afterward, they lay together, wrapped in each other's arms, a comfortable silence settling over them. Jack ran his fingers through her hair, feeling the slight shimmer that seemed to reflect Zelthar's unique light. Lyra shifted in his arms, her head resting on his shoulder. "I never thought I'd feel this way about a human," she admitted, her voice a quiet murmur. "This connection, it's unlike anything I've known." Jack smiled, his hand tracing gentle circles on her back. "It's new for me too. I came here expecting to learn about Zelthar, but instead, I found you." They lay together in the quiet moments that followed, finding comfort in each other's presence. In that space, words seemed unnecessary, as if each of them could feel the other's heartbeat, steady and strong. After a while, Lyra tilted her head up, meeting his gaze. "So, how does this work for humans?" she asked, a playful glint in her eyes. "Do we tell everyone? Or is this our little secret?" Jack chuckled, pulling her a little closer. "Honestly, I don't know. But I do know that I want to see where this goes with you." "Good," she replied, her voice filled with warmth. "Because I do too." They shared a soft, lingering kiss, both of them aware that this was the start of something that neither of them had anticipated. It was more than a connection of bodies. It was a blending of minds, a shared understanding that transcended the differences of their species and the distance between their worlds. In that quiet, intimate space, they felt the truth of it. They had found something rare and precious, something worth exploring, worth cherishing. And as they drifted into sleep, wrapped in each other's arms, they knew that this journey, wherever it led, was only just beginning. The days following their night together passed quickly, filled with diplomatic meetings and scientific exchanges. Jack and Lyra continued to see each other whenever they could, sharing quiet moments away from the public eye. However, word of their closeness began to spread among both the human delegation and the Zeltharian community, leading to murmurs of curiosity, skepticism, and, in some cases, disapproval. One afternoon, as Jack was reviewing his notes in the main hall, Tom approached him, his expression a mix of amusement and concern. "So, Jack, I hear you and Lyra are getting to know each other a little more than the usual diplomatic level?" Jack looked up, surprised but not entirely caught off guard. "News travels fast, doesn't it?" Tom chuckled. "You know how people are. But listen, you might want to be careful. Some people are saying it could compromise our mission." "Compromise the mission?" Jack frowned. "How?" "Lyra and I are just exploring our connection. This shouldn't have anything to do with our work here." Tom sighed, sitting down beside him. "I get it, Jack. I really do. But the higher-ups back on Earth are wary. They're concerned it might blur the lines between our diplomatic objectives and personal interests." Jack considered this, his brows knit in frustration. "So I'm just supposed to ignore my feelings for her?" "I'm not saying that," Tom replied, his tone sympathetic. "Just be careful. The more attention this relationship draws, the more scrutiny we're both under." Later that evening, Jack met Lyra by the lake where they had shared their first kiss. Her expression was pensive, a hint of worry creasing her brow. "Jack," she began, "I've heard whispers among my colleagues, too. Some of them are concerned about how our connection might affect our roles." He nodded, frustrated. "Tom told me something similar. They're worried that it's too unconventional, I guess." Lyra sighed. "Our societies have different views on relationships with those from other worlds. For many of my people, this is unfamiliar, maybe even unsettling. So what are we supposed to do?" Jack asked, his tone edged with frustration. "Pretend that none of this is real? That we don't feel what we feel?" Lyra reached out, placing a calming hand on his arm. "No, Jack. But maybe we need to show them that we're still committed to our roles here, that our relationship isn't a distraction." Jack nodded, softening at her touch. "You're right. We'll keep things professional and public, at least until people get used to the idea." Over the next week, Jack and Lyra took steps to distance themselves slightly during official events, focusing on their responsibilities and avoiding the watchful eyes that seemed to follow them everywhere. But the tension remained, as if everyone was waiting for them to make a misstep. One evening, Kryn, the High Scholar, invited Jack and Lyra to a private meeting. As they entered his study, he greeted them with a calm smile, but his gaze was serious. "I wanted to speak with you both," Kryn began, gesturing for them to sit. "I've observed the bond between you, and while I believe it has great potential, I must ask, are you prepared for the challenges it will bring? Not everyone is as open-minded as you may wish." Jack exchanged a look with Lyra before answering. "We understand the concerns, High Scholar, but we're committed to showing that our relationship won't interfere with our duties here." Kryn nodded thoughtfully. "Good. But remember, building trust takes time. You will need patience and understanding, both from each other and from your communities." Lyra reached for Jack's hand, squeezing it lightly. "We're willing to do what it takes." Kryn's face softened. "Then I will support you as best as I can. But be prepared. This path may not be an easy one." After they left, Jack and Lyra walked silently for a while, the weight of Kryn's words settling over them. Finally, Jack spoke. "This won't be simple, will it?" Lyra shook her head, her gaze steady. "No, but I believe it will be worth it." They shared a quiet smile, a silent promise between them. They knew the road ahead would be difficult, filled with misunderstandings and doubts, but they were ready to face it together. Jack and Lyra stood together at the heart of Zelthar's Grand Hall, where dignitaries from both planets had gathered for the final ceremony. The past few weeks had been a journey filled with challenges, but they persevered, leaning on each other through every misunderstanding and awkward moment. The air was filled with murmurs as High Scholar Kryn took to the podium, signaling for silence. Today marks the conclusion of this historic exchange, one that has brought new understanding and valuable insights to both our worlds. As Kryn spoke, Jack felt Lyra's hand slip into his. He glanced at her, and she gave him a reassuring smile. He took a deep breath, feeling a wave of calm wash over him. They were here together, facing whatever the future might bring. After Kryn's opening remarks, it was Jack's turn to speak. He approached the podium, the eyes of humans and Zeltharians alike fixed on him. When I first arrived on Zelthar, I was struck by the beauty of this place, by the advanced technology, the seamless way your society balances nature and progress. But what I've come to appreciate most is the spirit of the people here, especially the friendships I've made. A soft murmur ran through the crowd, and Jack caught sight of Tom grinning at him from the back of the room, giving him an encouraging thumbs up. Jack continued, his voice steady. Our time here hasn't just been about science and diplomacy. It's been about discovering what unites us despite our differences. And I think I speak for both delegations when I say we've learned that unity doesn't mean erasing what makes us unique. It's about appreciating each other for who we are. He paused, letting his words settle over the audience. In that spirit, I want to acknowledge someone who's been my guide, my friend, and yes, my partner in this journey. He glanced at Lyra, who stood beside him, her expression filled with warmth. Lyra, thank you. You've shown me that it's possible to bridge even the most unfamiliar worlds. Lyra blushed slightly, stepping forward to speak. Her voice was calm but filled with emotion. And you, Jack, have taught me the beauty of curiosity and openness. You've shown me that, while our customs may be different, our hearts beat with the same desire to connect, to understand, to be part of something greater than ourselves. The audience watched in quiet awe as Lyra continued. Our worlds might seem far apart, but today, we're closer than ever before. And that closeness is something we'll carry forward, a foundation on which both of our civilizations can build. There was a soft applause, and Jack felt an immense wave of gratitude wash over him. He and Lyra stepped down from the podium, mingling with the crowd, shaking hands with delegates and sharing words of encouragement with those who had once doubted them. Tom joined them, clapping Jack on the back. Nice speech, my friend. I think you might have just won over a few skeptics. Jack laughed. That was the idea. We couldn't have done it without everyone's support, including yours, Tom. Tom nodded, his usual light-hearted expression turning serious. You both showed us what it means to connect, to find common ground without losing sight of what makes us who we are. As the night drew to a close, the guests gradually dispersed, each carrying with them a piece of the newfound understanding shared between their worlds. Standing at the edge of the hall, Jack and Lyra gazed out over the city, its lights twinkling like stars. So, what happens now? Jack asked, his tone thoughtful. Lyra looked at him, her eyes reflecting the glow of the city below. Now, we take what we've built here and nurture it. We continue to learn from each other, step by step. Jack took her hand, a sense of quiet determination settling over him. Then let's make sure we do that, together. They shared a silent moment, watching the lights of Zelthar's capital, feeling the weight of their shared journey and the promise of what lay ahead. And as they stood side by side, they knew that, whatever challenges might come, they would face them as partners, united in purpose and heart.